Now we're going to look at factoring trinomials that have a leading coefficient other than 1. So to do that, we're going to study two different factoring methods, and the first one's the FOIL method. So let's just review what FOIL stands for. So in number 1, in the product, x minus 3 times 2x plus 1, x and 2x are your first terms. Negative 3 and 1 are your last terms. Negative 3 and 2x are your inside or inner terms. And x and 1 are your outside or outer terms. We're going to use the idea of FOIL to help us guess and check through the factoring method. So since all of these have a leading coefficient other than 1, we can't use the same little trick we used in the previous lesson. Factors of 12 that add up to 5. There are no factors of 12 that add up to 5. So we do have another way to factor that, and we're going to use the FOIL method. First thing you want to do is make sure that there's not a GCF. If there's not, 2, 5, and 12 don't have anything in common. So I like to begin by just penciling in my parentheses. Now there's only one way to get 2x squared, and that's 1x times 2x. But when I go to my last term, a 12, I've got lots of different ways to get 12. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4. That middle, that negative 5, that's a result of outers and inners, so we'll get there in a minute. But as far as your first terms of your binomials come from the first term of your trinomial. So 1x and 2x, or x and 2x. That's the only way that we can get 2x squared. The 12, I like to always start with the factor pair closest together, so the 3 and the 4. So I'm going to put a 3 here and a 4 here. This is where the guess and check part comes from, because now we have to, we've guessed, now we need to check to see if our outside terms and our inside terms combine for the negative 5x. So I have 3x and I have 8x, and I can get a negative 5 if my 8 is negative and my 3 is positive. So we have the negative would go here and the positive goes here. So my final answer is x minus 4 times 2x plus 3. Trying to just write over that so you can see that that's no longer a guess. That is what it is, x minus 4 and 2x plus 3. If the 4 and the 3 didn't work, then I would have flipped them around and put the 3 with the x and the 4 with the 2. So if it didn't work, don't erase, you would just cross it out and then try something new. So let's try this next one. 5x squared minus 32x plus 12. Again, there's not a GCF, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and pencil in my parentheses. There's only one way to get 5x squared because it's prime, so that's 5x and times x. Again, 12, we have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. Again, I like to always try the factor pair closest together, so the 3 and the 4. Let's try 3 and 4. Now comes the check part. We've guessed. Now let's check. This would give me 20. This gives me 3. I need negative 32. So that's not going to work. Again, I encourage you to cross out, don't erase, because this will give you a record of what you've tried and what you haven't tried. So now I'm going to flip-flop my 4 and my 3. And I'm going to check again. This gives me 15, and this gives me 4. Again, not going to get me negative 32, so that's not going to work. What that tells me is my factor pair of 3, 4, not working. So I got to try a different one. So I'm going to move up and try 2, 6. Now because I've run out of room, I'm going to erase. But again, I encourage you not to erase so you can keep track of what you've tried and what you haven't tried. So we now know that 3, 4 doesn't work. So now let's try another one. let's try 2 and 6. So I'm going to put my 2 here and my 6 here, and let's see if it's going to work. So my outers, that'll give me 30. My inners will give me 2. I will get a negative 32 if they're both negative. So final answer, 5x squared minus 2 times x minus 6. So now let's look at these two problems. These are going to be a little bit different. The first one is written kind of funny. So the very first thing I want to do is rewrite it in descending order. So I need negative 2x squared minus 5x plus 7. Now when we factor, it's easier to factor if our leading coefficient is positive, and right now it's negative. That's an easy fix. I'm just going to factor out a negative 1. That's going to leave me with a positive 2x plus 5x minus 7. Now let's break down that trinomial. So let's guess and check. The nice thing about this one is the 2 and the 7 are both prime, so there's not going to be a lot of combinations. It has to be 2x and x. And then the 7, there's only one way to get 7, and that's 1 and 7. So I'm going to put a 7 here and a 1 here. And if this doesn't work, then I'm going to switch them around. So let's just check this real quick. I'm going to get 2x, and I'm going to get 7x. That can get me 5 if my negative is here and my positive is here. So, looks like my final answer is actually 3 factors. I have the original negative 1 that I factored out, and then I have my 2x plus 7 and my x minus 1. Okay, let's try this bottom one. 8x squared minus 28x minus 36. Hopefully you notice that there's actually a GCF there. They're all even, which tells you there's at least a 2, but if you look a little bit closer, there's at least a 4. They all have a 4 in common. So I'm going to factor out the 4. And now I'm going to break that down. So again, there's only one way to get 2x squared, so 2x and x. The 9, I'm going to try 3 and 3. Now if this doesn't work, then I'm going to have to try the 1 and the 9. So this is going to get me 6x, this is going to get me 3x. There's no way I can get a 7 out of that, so that's not going to work. So let's try the 1 and the 9. So 2x and x, I know that that's fine. Now let's try 9 and 1. That'll give me 2x, this will give me 9x. I need a negative 7. That will happen if my 9 is negative. So 4 times 2x minus 9 times x plus 1.